I never used to drink the coffee Greg made unless I watched him do it. I don't even like coffee that much. But that morning, something felt off. He handed me a mug, smiling like always, but I noticed something floating in it. It was small, almost clear, but it didn't look like sugar or milk. I stared at it for a moment, my stomach turning. I didn't say anything. I just smiled back, stood up slowly, and acted like I forgot something in the kitchen. While he was distracted, I swapped our cups. I made sure the one with the strange bit in it was in front of him. He didn't notice. He picked up the cup and took a sip. I watched him. The change was almost instant. His face went pale, and his hands started to shake. He coughed once hard, then looked at me with wide eyes. "Did you drink yours already?" he asked, voice tight, fake calm. "Every drop," I said. I saw it then, something behind his eyes. Not fear. Not worry. Guilt. Panic. He stood up fast, almost knocking over the chair, and ran to the bathroom. I heard him gagging, vomiting, struggling. I sat there frozen, but my mind was racing. He thought I drank the poison. He was scared because he meant for me to drink it. That's when I knew. He had tried to kill me. I stood up and walked toward his phone on the counter. He never let it out of his sight, but in his panic, he'd left it behind. My hands were shaking, but I unlocked it. I still remembered the code. The screen lit up. Messages, apps, call logs. I didn't even know what I was looking for, but I knew I had to look, because this wasn't just a mistake or a misunderstanding. My husband, the man I had lived with for years, tried to poison me, and he thought I was already dying. I could still hear him in the bathroom, retching and swearing under his breath. He was scared. Not for me, for himself. And I was done pretending not to see the truth. A few weeks before the coffee incident, I started noticing things about Greg that didn't feel right. He had changed. He wasn't cold anymore. He was too nice. Too helpful. He'd ask me if I needed anything, if I wanted to go out, if I was happy. After years of distance and short answers, this sudden kindness didn't feel real. It felt like a role he was playing, like he was trying too hard to be a caring husband. At first, I thought maybe he was just trying to fix things between us. Maybe he finally noticed how tired I looked, how quiet I had become. But it didn't sit right. His smile didn't reach his eyes. His touch felt stiff. I couldn't explain it exactly, but I didn't trust it. Then he started taking his phone everywhere, even to the bathroom. He used to leave it lying around all the time, but now it was always in his hand or pocket. He started stepping out to take calls, whispering behind closed doors. When I asked who he was talking to, he just said it was work stuff. I nodded, but I didn't believe him. One evening while he was in the shower, I used his laptop. He hadn't logged out of his browser. I didn't mean to snoop, but something made me look. My hands trembled when I saw the search history. He had looked up things like painless poisons. How long does it take to kill someone? Can poison look like coffee residue? And undetectable in autopsy. I stared at the screen, my stomach sinking. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay beside him in the dark, staring at the ceiling, wondering what he was planning. I didn't eat the next morning. I pretended I wasn't hungry. I needed time to think. Over the next few days, I watched him carefully. He was still acting sweet. He brought me flowers. He made dinner. He kept saying how lucky he was to have me. But every word felt fake, like he was trying to make me comfortable before doing something terrible. I began to check every corner of the house when he left. Drawers, shelves, pockets. I didn't know what I expected to find, but I needed answers. One afternoon, I found something small hidden in his sock drawer. It was a tiny glass vial with no label. It had a little bit of clear liquid in it. It wasn't perfume. It wasn't medicine. I didn't touch it. I just stared at it, my heart beating fast. That's when it became real. It wasn't just my imagination. He was planning something. I took a photo of the vial with my phone and put it back exactly where I found it. I knew better than to confront him. If he was already planning to hurt me, asking questions might push him to act faster. From that day on, I started writing things down. Dates, times, everything I noticed. I saved screenshots from his computer. I wrote down the weird phone numbers he called. I made copies and hid them in different places. I wasn't sure who I could trust, but I knew I had to protect myself. I acted normal around him. I smiled, I talked, I laughed at his jokes. I cooked dinner and said goodnight. But every moment, I was watching him, listening to his steps, noticing the way he looked at me when he thought I wasn't looking. Every night, I double-checked the locks. I made sure my phone was charged and close by. I stopped drinking anything he handed me. I made my own food and threw his away when he wasn't looking. I didn't let him see the fear in my face. I didn't give him a reason to speed up whatever he was planning. I was scared, but I was careful. I didn't know how long I had, or how far he would go. But I knew I had to be ready. While Greg was still in the bathroom, I picked up his tablet. It was linked to his phone and cloud, something he probably forgot about. I opened the screen and searched through his files. My hands were shaking, but I knew I had to move quickly. I didn't know exactly what I was looking for, but I knew he was hiding something. I tapped into the photo backup. At first, it looked normal. Pictures from vacations, dinners, family events. But then I saw a folder marked deleted. I opened it. There were photos I had never seen before. One was of my pill bottle, close up. Another showed a paper from my doctor. There was also a screenshot of a Google Maps location. It was a cabin in the woods, far from our town. He had marked a route to it, with a star beside it. I zoomed in and stared. I had never been there. I had never even heard of that place. There were also screenshots of a life insurance policy. My name was on it. The amount was high, much higher than I remembered. It had been changed recently. I checked the date. It was updated just 3 weeks ago. He had made himself the sole beneficiary. I felt cold all over. My heart beat faster. I knew what this meant. I went to his messages. He had deleted a lot of them, but the tablet had saved backups. One contact stood out. It was just the letter L. I opened the thread. The messages were strange, hidden. Some were just emojis or short lines like almost done, or soon. One said, "She won't see it coming." Another said, "Cabin's ready." The most recent one said, "Tomorrow?" And Greg had replied, "Yes." In the morning. I didn't know who L was, but I knew they were part of it. I didn't want to keep reading, but I had to. I took screenshots of every message, every photo, every file. I saved them all into a folder and uploaded it to my private drive. Then I sent copies to a backup email that Greg didn't know existed. I made sure everything was saved in more than one place. I looked back at the tablet screen. All this time, Greg had been planning something behind my back. He wasn't just trying to scare me. He was serious. He had the location, the poison, the life insurance. He had every part lined up. I felt sick, but I stayed calm. I closed the tablet and placed it back where it was. I sat down at the kitchen table and waited. I could still hear Greg in the bathroom. He was washing his face, trying to calm down. He still thought I drank the poison. He still thought his plan had failed. But now I had proof. Now I knew everything, and I wasn't going to let him hurt me. I wanted to know who L was. The messages Greg sent to that name were short but dangerous. I couldn't stop thinking about them. He wasn't working alone. Someone else knew about the plan. I needed to find out who she was. I started by checking his social media. He didn't post much, but I looked through his followers and the people he interacted with. After some time, I found a profile that caught my eye. Her name was Lauren. She looked young, maybe mid-20s. She worked at a coffee shop in town. There were pictures of her in a uniform, standing behind a counter, holding coffee cups and smiling at customers. At first glance, her page looked normal. But when I looked closer, I noticed things that didn't fit. Expensive handbags, jewelry, fancy clothes. In one photo, she was sitting in a car I knew wasn't hers. It was Greg's. She had her hand on the steering wheel and wrote, "Feeling like a queen today." That's when I knew Greg was seeing her. Her captions were strange. Some said things like, "Soon I'll be free," or "A fresh start is worth everything." One post said, "He promised me a new life." And another said, "Can't wait to leave the past behind." There was a picture of her at a cabin in the woods. The same one I saw in the screenshot Greg had saved. It all connected. I didn't message her. I didn't want her to know who I was. Instead, I went to the coffee shop where she worked. I dressed simply and walked in like any other customer. She was behind the counter, smiling, moving fast, making drinks. She looked up when I stepped forward. "Hi there. What can I get you today?" she asked cheerfully. I ordered something simple and waited. She chatted easily, not knowing who I was. She talked a lot. She mentioned her boyfriend, saying, "He's crazy about coffee. Says it's how he starts and ends his day." She smiled like it was a sweet thing, but I knew better. I nodded and smiled back, pretending to be just another person in line. But inside, I was shaking. Everything was falling into place. Greg had been seeing this woman for months. He had promised her a new life, maybe even planned to take her to that cabin. And he had to get rid of me first. Lauren kept talking. "He's older than me, but so charming," she said. "Takes me on trips, buys me things. Says I deserve more than what I've had." I asked, "What does he do?" "He's in business or something," she replied. "I don't ask too many questions. He's just helping me start over." She handed me my drink and smiled again. "Hope you have a lovely day." "You too," I said softly, then walked out of the shop. I sat in my car and took a deep breath. So that was L. Lauren. Young, naive, and probably in love with him. She didn't know the whole truth. Maybe she thought he was leaving me, or maybe she knew about the plan. Either way, she was part of it now. I didn't feel angry at her. Not yet. She was being used too, even if she didn't see it. But she was important. She had answers I didn't have yet. Now I had a face, a name, a connection. I wasn't just guessing anymore. I knew who he was doing this for. And I knew it wasn't just about money. It was about starting over. But I wasn't going to disappear like they hoped. I wasn't going to make it easy for either of them. I needed more answers. I had found out a lot by myself, but something told me there was still more Greg was hiding. I couldn't take any chances. so I looked for a private investigator. I didn't have much money, so I found someone with good reviews but low rates. His name was Mike. He was quiet, sharp, and didn't ask too many questions. I met him in a small diner and told him I thought my husband was planning something bad. I didn't say everything, just enough to make him take the case. He agreed to start digging right away. He said he'd look into Greg's financial records, online activity, and anything else he could find. A few days later, Mike called and asked me to meet again. He slid a folder across the table when I sat down. I opened it slowly. Inside were printouts of bank records. Greg had a second bank account I didn't know about. It had large deposits, money that wasn't from his regular job. Thousands of dollars, sent in pieces over the last 6 months. Mike spoke in a low voice. This account is hidden. He's been moving money here without leaving a clear trail. There was more. Mike had screenshots from a message board. The thread looked like a place where criminals talked in code. Greg had posted there under a fake name. He asked for help cleaning up a personal mess and said he needed it done soon. One reply said, "Send details." No questions. It was clear what it meant. I stared at the page, my hands cold. It didn't even sound like Greg anymore. It sounded like someone completely different, someone dangerous. Then Mike showed me one more thing. He also applied for a job overseas, he said. A company in Spain. A good position. High pay. My head spun. Greg never told me he was looking for another job. He never said anything about moving. We had no plans to leave the country. Now it all made sense. He wanted a new life. A new place. A clean break. Without me. Mike looked serious. He's setting things up behind your back. The money, the job, the questions online. It's not random. He's planning your exit. Permanently. I didn't speak. I just nodded slowly. I believed him. Everything pointed to the same thing. Greg didn't just want a divorce. He wanted to erase me. I thanked Mike and paid him what I could. He said he'd keep watching and let me know if anything new came up. I walked out of the diner and sat in my car for a long time. The sky was cloudy. The world felt heavy. But I wasn't lost. I had proof now. I had names, files, pictures, and records. I had everything I needed to stay one step ahead of Greg. And I was going to use it. After everything I had learned, I stopped waiting to feel safe. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't run, not yet. If I ran, he might come after me. If I went to the police now, I didn't know if they'd believe me. I needed proof. More than what I had. I had to let Greg think his plan was still working. So I started acting. I smiled at him. I laughed at his jokes. I let him believe I still trusted him. I told him I was feeling better, that the stress between us had faded. He seemed relaxed again, like he believed I had forgotten everything. But I hadn't forgotten. I was watching him every second. I bought a few small cameras and hid them around the house. One in the living room shelf, one behind the books in our bedroom, another in the kitchen. They looked like little chargers. Greg would never notice. I also placed a sound recorder inside a candle jar. I made sure it picked up every word. Each night, I wrote down what happened. I saved it all in my secret drive and printed copies to store outside the house. I didn't trust just one place. I kept backup files in a locker at the local library. I wanted to be ready in case anything went wrong. Then came the night I had been waiting for. It started like a normal evening. Greg made dinner and poured us both a glass of wine. He was too eager, too cheerful. He kept pushing the glass toward me, saying, "You'll love this one. Just try it." His smile looked tight. His eyes didn't match his words. I took the glass and gave a small smile. I lifted it to my lips and pretended to take a sip. I didn't swallow. I went to the sink after a moment, turned my back to him, and spit it out while pretending to wash a dish. I made sure the camera behind me had a clear view. Then I walked slowly to the couch and sat down. After a while, I leaned back like I was tired. I let my eyes close a little. My breathing became slower. I stayed still. Greg waited a few minutes, then got up from the table. He moved carefully. I could hear him put on gloves, thin plastic ones. He walked over to me and leaned close. I kept my body relaxed, even when I felt him near my face. He whispered, "Soon." The words sent chills down my spine. He stood back up and looked around. I could hear him pacing quietly. He didn't call for help. He didn't check my pulse. He didn't act like a husband. He acted like someone checking if a plan was going the way he wanted. I opened one eye slightly, just enough to see his back as he walked to his phone. He started typing, probably texting her. I stayed still until he left the room. Then I sat up, grabbed my phone, and checked the footage. It was all there. Every second. His voice, his movements, his whisper. The camera had caught everything. I saved the file right away. I uploaded it to my drive, emailed it to my burner account, and texted it to the investigator. Then I placed the wine glass in a Ziploc bag and sealed it. I didn't know what he put in there, but I wanted it tested. I didn't sleep that night. I kept the lights on and stayed alert. Greg came back in, looked confused when he saw me awake. I smiled like nothing had happened. He didn't say a word. But now I had him. On video. In his own house. trying again. And this time, he had no idea I was ready. The day started quiet. I moved with care, every step planned. I went into the kitchen early and set up like always, 2 mugs side by side. One was mine, the other for Greg. I used the same mugs we always used, nothing different, nothing that would catch his eye. I filled one with plain water and added old coffee on top. It looked right, smelled right. I placed that one where mine usually went. Then I waited. Greg came in, yawning, acting normal. He offered to make the coffee. I smiled, nodded. He brewed the pot, poured it into both mugs, added sugar to mine, thinking it was mine, and handed it over. I watched carefully, saying nothing. He turned his back, and I made the switch. We sat down together. I brought the fake cup to my lips and let it touch them, pretending to sip. Greg took his first drink. I watched his face. It happened fast. His hand paused, his eyes narrowed. His breathing changed. I kept still, sipping air, showing no fear. He stared at me. You finished already? I nodded. Yep, all of it. His face went stiff. He stood up suddenly and moved toward the sink. He leaned over, coughing, gagging. I stayed seated calm. He grabbed his phone and walked into the other room. I followed, quiet as a shadow. I tapped record on mine and listened. He spoke into the phone, voice low but shaky. She drank it. She wasn't supposed to yet. She drank the whole thing. I heard a woman's voice reply. What do you mean? I gave her the cup. I didn't think she'd drink it that fast, he said. She said it was all gone. What if she dies now? The line was silent for a moment. Then the woman spoke again. Are you serious right now? She's not reacting yet, but I don't know how long it takes. I kept recording, heart steady. He kept talking. I followed the instructions. I put it in her drink. She said it tasted fine. I didn't think it would work that fast. The woman snapped, you idiot. Why would you do it now? Greg didn't answer right away. I walked away before he could see me, went back to the kitchen. I placed the phone where it would stay recording. The audio was clear. It caught every word. He returned minutes later, pale and sweating. He glanced at me, trying to read my face. I smiled gently. You okay? I asked. He nodded, wiped his forehead. Just got dizzy. I lifted my cup again and looked at him. Weird. I feel great. He didn't speak. His lips parted like he wanted to ask something, but nothing came out. I leaned back and held his gaze, my smile never leaving. Anna leaked the video early in the morning, just after sunrise. The house was quiet. Greg was still asleep in the bedroom. She sat at the kitchen table with her laptop, staring at the screen, then clicked upload. The file contained 2 clips. One where Greg leaned over her, whispering soon, thinking she had passed out, and the other where he panicked on the phone with Lauren, believing the poison had worked. His voice was clear. So was the fear in it. She copied both videos onto 3 flash drives. Each was sealed in a plain envelope. The first envelope was labeled, to HR, urgent. She drove to Greg's office, parked far enough not to be seen, and walked to the side entrance. She slipped the envelope into the office mailbox and left without looking back. The second envelope was addressed to his mother. Anna hadn't seen her in months. She had always acted like Greg was perfect. This time, she would hear his words directly. Anna dropped the envelope into her mailbox and left quickly. The third was for Lauren. That stop took the most control. Anna waited until the afternoon, parked outside the coffee shop, and watched through the window. When Lauren stepped into the back, Anna entered, walked straight to the counter, placed the envelope down, and walked out. No one stopped her. That evening, she created a new Reddit account with a name no one would recognize. She went to a private thread known for real stories, betrayal, survival, secret. She wrote her post in a few lines. My husband tried to poison me. I recorded it. Here's the proof. No names. No locations. No added details. Just 2 short videos. She hit upload. It didn't take long. A few people saw it right away. Then more. Upvotes climbed. Comments followed. Is this real? I'm sick just listening to this. He literally admitted it. Some users began digging. They guessed locations from the video background. One person posted a side-by-side of Greg's voice from a work presentation. Another recognized the coffee shop and said, "That's my city." Anna stayed silent. She just read. By midnight, it had gone viral. Thousands had seen the videos. People were talking. Some begged her to leave the house. Others urged her to go to the police. A few sent messages offering help or legal advice. There were posts saying, "I know that guy, and I've seen him before." Greg sat in the living room, flipping channels, laughing at something on TV. He still believed nothing had changed, that his secret was safe, that his plan had failed but not been discovered. He had no idea what was happening online. His voice, his words, his panic, it was all out there now, spreading fast. Anna sat on the bed, phone in hand, watching the numbers rise. She didn't say a word. Morning would come soon, and with it the end of Greg's lies. It happened 2 days later. The knock on the door came early in the morning. Greg was still in his pajamas, drinking coffee and reading the news on his phone. When he opened the door and saw the police, he looked confused. He asked what was going on. They didn't explain much. They just asked him to come outside. He stepped out, and they told him he was under arrest. He tried to ask questions, but they already had the cuffs on him. I stood in the hallway, quiet, watching everything. He turned his head and looked at me, his face full of shock. He opened his mouth, but he didn't say a word. They took him away. I knew they had enough. The videos, the phone calls, the messages. Everything was already in the hands of the right people. The flash drives had done their job. What I posted online had spread fast. People were talking, and someone had passed the videos to the authorities. Later that day, I got a call. Greg had been questioned for hours. He didn't speak at first. But when they brought in Lauren, things changed. She cracked quickly. She told them everything she knew. She said she thought Greg was just going to leave me, not harm me. She said he promised her a new life, a house, a future. When they showed her the video of his phone call, she broke down. She didn't want to go to jail for something she didn't plan herself. So she gave them all the messages, all the gifts, all the details. The police called me again. They asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes. I also told them I would be filing for divorce. I was done being tied to him. I wanted my name clear and my future free. The next few days were hard. I had to speak with lawyers, fill out paperwork, answer questions again and again. I showed them the proof, told them the timeline. Some parts were painful to say out loud, but I kept going. I didn't stop. The house felt strange without him. Quiet, still, but not in a bad way. I could sleep now without watching the door. I could make tea without checking what was in the cup. I could walk through my own home without pretending to smile. People around town started talking. Some were supportive. Some didn't know what to say. But I didn't care. I had told the truth. I had stayed alive. That was enough for me. The lawyer helped me file a civil case too. I was suing Greg for attempted murder. Not just for what he did, but for what he planned. For the fear he caused. For the way he had taken years from me while pretending to love me. It wouldn't fix everything, but it was something. Justice didn't erase the pain, but it gave it weight. It made it real in the eyes of others. And that mattered. At night, I sat on the couch and listened to the quiet. I thought about everything that had happened. All the lies. All the little signs I had ignored. All the times I had felt something was wrong but didn't know what. I didn't feel proud or strong or brave. I just felt tired. But I also felt safe. That was new. That was something I hadn't felt in a long time. Greg was gone. The truth was out. The fear no longer lived in the walls of my home. It was finally over. Weeks passed. Life became calm again, but this time it felt different. I didn't have to look behind me anymore. I didn't have to pretend everything was okay. I had moved out of that house. It held too many memories I didn't want to carry anymore. Now I live in a small apartment in another town. It's not fancy, but it feels right. The windows bring in warm light during the day. The neighbors are friendly but mind their own business. It feels safe. Each day, I try to do things that help me feel better. I go for walks. I read books. I cook simple meals. I play soft music in the background. Sometimes I still wake up from strange dreams, but I don't freeze in fear. I sit up, breathe, and remind myself where I am. People who heard about what happened still message me. Some offer kind words. Some ask questions. I reply when I want to. I don't talk about everything unless I feel ready. I've learned that healing takes time. Some days are strong. Some are heavy, but each one moves me forward. I also started seeing a counselor. At first, I didn't think it would help, but it does. I get to talk about things I kept inside for too long. I say out loud what I once feared. I talk about how close I came to danger, and how hard it is to accept that someone I loved wanted to harm me. That part still doesn't feel real sometimes. I haven't seen Greg again. I hope I never do. The court is handling the rest. I gave them everything they needed. I told the truth. I showed them proof. That part of my life is behind me now. I spend more time with myself. I take things slow. I don't rush. I water my plants. I open the windows. I light a candle when the sun goes down. I answer messages only when I feel like it. I don't force anything anymore. One morning, I sat by the window with a warm drink in my hand. The sun touched the floor gently. People walked past outside, going to work or taking their kids to school. Life was moving, and I was part of it again. I didn't feel stuck anymore. I looked down at the cup in my hands. It wasn't coffee. It was tea. And then I smiled a little to myself. Funny thing is, I never even liked coffee. Betrayal can break you, but it can also build you. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that strength is born in the hardest moment. Tap like, drop a comment, and follow for more powerful stories of rising, rebuilding, and choosing yourself, no matter how dark it gets.